triumphed in our judiciary. That is the base reality. I was in prison. I know what I saw in prison. Persons who had no business whatsoever being in prison have been sent to prison by persons who should be in prison through a process that is even more criminal than the crimes alleged against the persons languishing in prison. The totality of the prison system is suggestive of criminality by the state and by functionaries of the state. That is the reality. See, let's stop sugarcoating some things for ourselves.
Alright guys, that was Dele Farotimi. There's no time he comes out without saying things of wisdom. He exposed our Nigerian judiciary and how they operate, and I don't think they will like this video. Even the INEC, he exposed everybody, how corruption has eaten up our judiciary in Nigeria. This man came out bleeding, like speaking from the place of pain. Just take a look, listen at the full video. I'll put you guys in a minute.
If I am talking about the triumph of evil, I am speaking to a reality that has overtaken the Nigerian state, the entire society. When evil overtakes a society to the point where it becomes almost impossible to speak objectively as one to the reality confronting us, then evil has triumphed. All it takes for evil to triumph is the silence of good men. On the evidence of it, let's take them one by one. The Nigerian judiciary. It is said that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. Who is the common man? Common man. It speaks to the base of citizenship, the minimum irreducible. So, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. The last hope. It means that if the common man cannot find hope in the judiciary, his situation has become hopeless. That is what that says. The judiciary is the last hope of the common man. There are very few Nigerians alive or dead better qualified to speak about Nigeria than Olusegun Obasanjo. I've had multiple disagreements. I find very little to agree with him. But in recent days, I read of him having spoken in his book, his latest book, and he's usually not a witness of truth. But this time around, I commend his forthrightness in labeling our judiciary the court of corruption. What is corruption? Perversion. What shouldn't happen, happening. And Obasanjo, no less a person than Obasanjo. And there is nothing he has said that is not known to each and every one of us. But the reality is that evil has triumphed in our judiciary. That is the base reality. I was in prison. I know what I saw in prison. Persons who had no business whatsoever being in prison have been sent to prison by persons who should be in prison through a process that is even more criminal than the crimes alleged against the persons languishing in prison. The totality of the prison system is suggestive of criminality by the state and by functionaries of the state. That is the reality. Our judiciary, see, let's stop sugarcoating some things for ourselves. Tanko, the plane driver, had a petition written against him by members of the same Supreme Court, alleging that he stole, he's a common thief. This is what other members of the Supreme Court wrote about the apex, that the judiciary stinks. That's the last hope of the common man. If that is not bad enough, let's take a look at our legislature. The legislature controls the purse. In any society governed by law, the executive cannot spend a dime without legislative appropriation. They can't. As crazy as Trump is, he cannot spend a dime without due appropriation by the United States Congress. That is the essential power of the legislature. But what is happening in Nigeria is bad enough that the Constitution does not belong to the people. It's tough enough that we've all had to pretend and lie to ourselves that we're a place governed by law when we know it is not. But it has never happened that evil is crowing so triumphantly in the marketplace that every significant item of expenditure in the Nigerian space in the last 10 years, particularly in the last 2, beginning from the Lagos-Calabar road to infamy, moving on to the renovation of the airport for 721 or 712 billion? What kind of bare-faced... Oh yeah. Everybody who would have shouted, who once had a lot to say, silent. And you say evil has not triumphed? What stilled the tongues that once wagged against evil in this country? How have we come to a point where it does not matter what the president does with the public purse? Lagos-Calabar, like 4 billion per kilometer. The road is already failing. No competitive bidding, no bidding of any sort, no tender, no appropriation, just announcement. Airport, the same thing. What is going on? And we say evil has not triumphed. Look, in a classic case of corrupt states, you'll find a legislature that is malleable enough to make stupid laws that serves nobody's interest but those of the narrow interest of the ruiners. You'd find a judiciary nowhere near as useless as the one we have evolved. And then you'll find an executive truly made up of thieves. Welcome to Nigeria. If you thought it was bad enough looking at the legislators, where it appears that the basis of appointment to office is to be criminally minded, then go look at the executive. And I'm not only speaking to the one sat in Aso Rock. Look across the length and breadth of Nigeria. And what do you find? Criminals sat in office who have no business being in those kind of offices, but deified and constantly applauded, even as the morals of the society has been completely turned on its head and destroyed. Public morality? I'm nobody's moral agent. For that, you go to your churches and mosques to hear them tell you about morality. But I am all about what happens to the fabric of the society that we have built. Look all around you. Look all around you and talk to the morality of the society that we have built. Prostitution. And yeah, it's prostitution. It's not urgent 2K. Oh yeah, drug abuse. Name it. Everything, everywhere you turn. I'm not talking about a society that has deviance. I'm talking about a society of deviance. Public morality has disappeared because nobody speaks to morality anymore. As long as you have money, everything is fine. And you are not accepting of the fact that evil has triumphed in the society. Let's look at our educational system. An educational system to be functional must address the need of the people. We're graduating engineers who can't build roads. Because everywhere you look, where there are road construction jobs going on in Nigeria, what you have, Chinese, Lebanese, foreign nationals of any type is fine, just not Nigerians. And if you think it's about them not giving opportunities to Nigerians, have you been on construction sites? All the artisans, they come from the Francophone countries. The ones we have here, barely literate, poorly trained, horrible attitude, incredibly lazy, perfect reflection of the society that we have built. Everybody in the construction industry would rather go to the Francophone countries to go get, because we stopped training people in the informal trades, we stopped training people in the technical trades, we stopped the apprenticeship system, we've destroyed the entire educational system. It's completely unfit for purpose. We're graduating idiots, people who can't even think for themselves. We clap when they speak of universities where dress codes are prescribed. We clap and applaud when they speak of universities with all kinds of strict regimes of rules. You're talking about a university. That is the point where the human mind is meant to reign unfettered. But what has happened to us? We are graduating thieves and murderers. Children who are trained that violence pays. They begin killing from their university days. They begin their prostitution from the university days. The system has taught them that hard work does not pay. They can buy their degrees. They can sleep their way through universities. They can pay their way through universities. And you are graduating barely literate beings. Even the ones who play by the rules, what do they come out with? Barely capable of thinking on their own. They believe that education is about regurgitating what the lecturers have taught. And if you've noticed, more and more people are reading medicine and medical sciences these days, nursing and all of that. Why? Because they are feeding a refugee flu. If you read nursing, you get a job pretty fast in the West. They need all those expertise. So slavery all over, but this time around we're the ones paying for the passage. Everywhere you look, evil has triumphed in our society. Those who cannot afford passports are the ones applauding the change. The ones who can afford passport are fighting to make it affordable. But the ones who have no hope as things stand because of the hopelessness pervading the land, they are the ones defending this policy. And then you ask yourself, has evil not triumphed in this society? You're building a road to Calabar, but the road to Lagos or Lagos-Benin Expressway or Benin Ore, useless, dangerous. Lagos-Ibadan that you've been building for almost 20 years, already failing in portion, but you are building a road to Calabar that is not required at this time. All kinds of funky railway contracts are being entered into at this time. You've got, God knows, about 20 million children out of school. In any sane society, that should be demanding an emergency response. But in my country, Nigeria, by design, is fine to waste 20 million brains. And you think evil has not triumphed? Because who is talking? Who are talking? Who are the people speaking to this evil? What happened to the voices that used to speak against evil in our society? That is what they say. There isn't meant to be these abnormalities in the presence of elders. Where are the elders in this land? Where have they gone to? What happened to the elders of this land? Have they become deaf and dumb? What happened to them? Where are the elders of this land? Where abnormality is crowing in broad daylight. And you're saying that evil has not triumphed? What has happened? What has happened? What is the use of your Public Procurement Act when people just do what they care? What is the use? Where are the elders of this land as bigotry has taken hold of this society? Where are the elders? Who is speaking? Where are they? Is it that all the elders of this land have become as agbayas, useless, good for nothing? If you are above 70 in this land and you have found the grace to be silent in the face of this evil, you are an agbaya. End of story. If you are a conscious being and you have kept quiet, the reality is that you are complicit in this evil because it takes the silence of good men for evil to triumph. The silence of good men. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, ẹni tó bá so ewúrẹ́ mọ́lẹ̀, ó ti jẹ̀bi kó fún pákí. If you tie a horse, a goat, if you tether it, you become responsible for its feeding. What has happened to the elders of this land? That they see goats tethered all over the place, dying of hunger. Or as the Igbo will say, when you see a goat dead from hunger in a yam barn, let me rephrase that. If you see a goat in the yam barn dead, you know it is not hunger that has killed it. There are goats, dead goats, littering the Nigerian yam barn, and the elders have kept quiet. What has happened to us? What rendered us mute? Why did we become like this? And you're saying you'd still doubt that evil has triumphed over our land? What happened to us? What happened to us? Kidnapping has become an epidemic in my country, Nigeria. It's not just something that is happening far away any longer. It's become epidemic. It's happening everywhere you turn in Nigeria. Everywhere you turn in Nigeria, people are being kidnapped for ransom. In cities, in the villages, it's become an epidemic. And nobody thinks anything is wrong. In actual fact, in Katsina State, where the last evil came from, in Katsina, traditional rulers are the ones suing for peace, begging bandits to allow farmers back on their farms, making peace with persons who have killed, murdered in cold blood, chased men and women off their homes, and making peace. The Nigerian state is standing by, armed bandits carrying all kinds of sophisticated arms, not the type you would even issue to Nigerian soldiers. They are sat there, making peace. Akimi Katsina, chairman of the local government, Safana, is happening all across the northeast and the northwest. They are busy making peace with murderers and criminals. Everywhere you turn in Nigeria, security has become a big business. Insecurity, that is. Everywhere you turn. Everywhere. Urbans are becoming complicit in the evil in their domain, as evident in what I'm reading out of Kwara State. Urbans. Complicit in the evil overtaking their land. Insecurity everywhere, and all of these hinging only on one thing: this complicity of the state or its inability in some cases. You would think that since we are in a democracy, we should be able to right whatever we believe wrong. We do not have a democracy. Yes, we have elections, quote and unquote, but it's anything but a democracy. And you can always count on the judiciary to complete the work that will be started by the Mahmoud Yakubus of this world. Nation building gone to the dogs. Nobody cares about building a Nigerian state any longer. All the persons who should be interested in building the state are busy fractionalizing it and breaking it into little bits and bits so that the people are never able to speak with one voice against the evil that has overtaken them. Religion. Should we talk about that? The merchants of hope, who constantly speak from both sides of their mouths. Oh, Saul must come before Paul, or whatever the heck that one said. But Saul must come before David. He's pivoting away now. He would rather talk to you about how the black man should be looking to liberate himself after they had helped Nigerians enter slavery. They are telling you our problems are spiritual. We should pray, fast and pray. The Muslims, they'll tell you once you have Muslims sat at the helm of affairs, Nigeria will get better. Has it gotten any better? Has it gotten any better? At the end of the day, every society develops on the back of hegemonies. But look at us. What is the hegemony developing Nigeria? Hegemony of criminals. There is nothing wrong with having a Muslim ticket if it is about the interest of the people. Who cares what your religiosity is? But think about it. Look all around you. Everything must be decided on the basis of ethnicity or of religion. And the persons who are profiting from this, constantly profiting from it, are always the ones at the forefront of promoting it. But the victims are usually the last to cotton on to the idea that somebody is using their head for their own interest. But let us take all this and look at it again. What is it really that has rendered Nigeria susceptible to the evil that crows in broad daylight and has announced its own triumph in the marketplace? It is the absence of the rule of law. It is the absence of the rule of law. Evil is instituted when the will and whim of men govern a space. In any part of the world, and I've seen a fair bit of this globe, when you find that the law rules, and I'm not speaking about democratic law, I'm talking about once you've established the law, and everybody understands that this is the law, and the law rules in that space, evil is avoided, evil is defeated, because in the collective enforcement of the will of the people, which is the rule of law, evil is curtailed. Let me explain something. Some English guy, his name will come to me in a minute. Oh yes, Lord Acton. He said, power corrupts. He should have stopped there, but he didn't. He said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. He should have stopped after the first two words. The duty of power, the nature of power is to corrupt. Power corrupts. He could have stopped there. It does not take absolute power to corrupt. Any power that is unbridled to law, that is not limited by law, governed by law, corrupts. If you gave a man the power to stand at the gate, and you gave him absolute power that is not subject to any limitation, that power would be abused. That is the nature of power. Its nature is to corrupt. So, in order to ensure that the power does not corrupt, you constantly constrain power. So, when power is given by law, it is equally constrained by law. So, you have the power of arrest, but it sets out the parameters within which the power may be used. But when you have a state that is not governed by law, but is governed by the whims and caprices of men, perversion ensues. And that is what you have in the Nigerian space. The law does not rule. It is the will and whims of men that rules. And where perversion rules, you see what you see in the Nigerian space today. When the reign of evil is instituted, then the will of the people counts for nothing. And that is where we are in Nigeria as a society. The society supports the suppression of the dissenting voices simply because it helps them to mute their own consciences. And you say evil has not triumphed in such a space? Evil has triumphed in our country. Whether we come out of this is entirely in our own hands. But remember, all it takes for evil to triumph is the silence of good men. Where are the good men in Nigeria? Why are they silent? Why are they not talking? Why? If your pastor is silent in the face of the evil that has overtaken this country, you should wonder why. If your imam is silent, you should wonder why. The elders that once spoke that spoke plenty of Dogonturenchi in condemnation, righteous condemnation of evil. What has happened to them? I see this question, what's a good man? I'll take you to the Bible, just to round this up and answer that, since I have the benefit of seeing you. Only God is good. What makes a man good is his determination to be the best that he can be. There is nothing that makes a man good in the sense of good other than his readiness to try the best he can. Only God is good. If you go into your scripture, it says, why do you call me good? Because he wanted to know if they caught him to the fact of his divinity. I'm not a saint. I only try my best. And that's all anyone can do to be good. You can only try your best. That is all you can do. Try your best. Be as good as you can be to the next man. Just be a human being. Be a decent human being. That is all you can be, and that is all you can do. If all you can do at any point in time is to speak to the evil you see on a day-to-day basis, refuse to normalize it, then you would have been a good man. So when you speak about good, it's relative. None of us are saints. And no, not everybody are also devils. Circumstances makes us who we are. People will only obey the laws that are upheld. The basis of the evil that has overtaken us, the absence of the rule of law. The triumph of evil, the silence of those you would consider good. Me and you, look in your mirror and then ask yourself, how did you become as silent as you have become, to the point where evil has become normalized? It crows in daylight. You see it even where it shouldn't be found, in churches and mosques. How did it become like that? Argue all you want, but our reality bespeaks the truth. Evil is crowing in broad daylight. And all it takes for that to happen is silence of good men and women too. Open your mouths, speak in your space. Well, even as I come to the end of today's sermon, I must be quick to remind you that even while silence is not an option, and no agree is not a governing alternative, we must, as a people, begin to organize ourselves. Organize ourselves around issues. But the one that I believe is out there, easiest for all of us to get behind in this moment, is the one currently being championed by Randy Peter, the electoral reform. I don't believe that this system is interested or capable of any reformation, but it is the minimum irreducible. Let's try our own best. Get behind that demand for electoral reform. Let's start from there. I do not come to crow or wail impotently. I am deliberate about educating so that we get to the point where you have been informed, you can challenge and educate yourselves. It is critical that we act in concert if we are going to ever come out of this mess. I'm doing my part. You do yours. But there is no Messiah coming. Absolutely no Voltron. All this story about it is only Lagbaja or Temetu that can bring us out of this bullshit. You are the ones required to bring us out of this. Look in your mirror when you're seeking a Messiah. That's where your Messiah is. You will save you, not Dele, not anybody else. It is you organizing yourselves into a single unit behind issues that saves you. Randy Peter is shouting every day. Listen to him. If I will be talking in the public space today, organizing you for anything, aside from trying to get everybody together in an organized political fashion, by trying to revive the action group, the only thing I will commend to you, get behind Randy Peter in this moment. This is where I say my goodbye. Have you beautiful weeks ahead of you. We'll see you next week. God bless. All it takes for evil to triumph is the silence of good men. Not saints, good men. Look in the mirror to find that good man is waiting for you. You're good.
This man called Dele Farotimi is a man of wisdom. He always comes out to say the truth. You remember that this same man said that he's going to vote P2B because he did not see anybody among our Nigeria politics today that has integrity than P2B. I did not see anybody today that has integrity and that can lead Nigeria to a greater nation than P2B. This man believes so much in P2B. That's why he always comes out to support P2B, because he only supports what is right. And he has seen that among all our leaders we have in Nigeria, El-Rufai, Atiku, Tinubu, Jonathan, all of them, that P2B seems to be the best candidate. And that's why he's supporting P2B to become our next president. But the issue that with corruption in our INEC and judiciary make it come to pass. Because last election, P2B went to court, and Supreme Court asked the can bring results. Then they went to INEC, and INEC could not give them the results, and Supreme Court could not push further to tell that they are all working together. The earlier we know this, better for us. But the issue now is that how are we going to tackle the corruption in our judiciary? Because the level of injustice in Nigeria is alarming. Where somebody can do something bad, but because he has money and connection, he will send somebody that did not do anything wrong to prison. Where him is one that is guilty of the case, but he will buy the case for the judge and then now sentence somebody that is not guilty to prison. Exactly what Dele Farotimi exposed in his book he wrote before, where Alpha Babalola paid George a big amount of money to carry out judgment in favor of his client because he has the money and connection. This is a level how injustice is ravaging Nigeria today, where you can be not guilty, but you still face the consequences because the person that's guilty has money and connection. Then they will now bribe the judges, and then they'll carry the case in their favor and sentence you to prison. This was exactly what the Farotimi said that he saw where he went to prison, where he saw papers that are not guilty that are in prison, whereas those that are guilty of the case are not in prison because they've paid their way out or they've bribed their way out. But let me get to a video about the video in the comment section. But I am not going to a video about that. I'll be back in my next video.